Henry VIII, a name synonymous with power, tyranny, and, of course, his 6 wives. This larger-than-life king cast a long shadow over England. His reign was a period of religious upheaval, political intrigue, and scandalous romances. And what better way to unravel the complexities of this monarch than through the lives of the women he called wife? These were women of substance, intelligence, and ambition, each leaving their own mark on history. We'll uncover the truth behind the famous rhyme, "Divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived." Our story begins with Catherine of Aragon, a woman of impeccable lineage, born into the heat of Spanish royalty, daughter of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, the very monarchs who sponsored Columbus's voyages. Catherine was a prize, a valuable pawn in the game of international diplomacy. Her marriage to Henry's elder brother, Arthur, Prince of Wales, was meant to solidify an alliance between England and Spain. But fate, as it so often does, had other plans. Arthur, a delicate soul, died shortly after their marriage, leaving Catherine a young widow in a foreign land. And then enters Henry VIII, young, athletic, full of the vigor of youth. Catherine, now free to marry again, was a convenient match for the new king. The Pope, after some persuasion, granted a dispensation for their union. Theirs was a marriage that began with promise, a union of 2 powerful dynasties. Catherine, a devout Catholic, embraced her role as Queen of England. She was a patron of the arts, a woman of learning, and a shrewd political operator. Yet a shadow loomed over their marriage, the lack of a male heir, a successor to secure the Tudor dynasty. This, as we shall see, would prove to be their undoing. As Henry's reign progressed and his desire for a male heir intensified, his eye began to wander. It settled upon Anne Boleyn, a woman who possessed a quick wit and a sharp mind. Anne, unlike Catherine, was not of royal blood, but she commanded attention. She was a woman of the court, her father having risen through the ranks, earning respect. Yet she captivated Henry, her intelligence a stark contrast to Catherine.
Henry, consumed by his desire for a male heir, sought an annulment. Rome, pressured by Catherine's nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor, refused his request.
This refusal led to England's break from the Catholic Church, a monumental shift, and the establishment of Henry as the supreme head of the Church of England. At the heart of this revolution stood Anne Boleyn, soon to be Queen of England. Chapter 4. Jane Seymour, the beloved Queen. Henry, scarred by Anne's fall, sought solace in Jane Seymour, a calm and composed lady-in-waiting. Jane's modesty and humility were a stark contrast to Anne Boleyn's fiery nature. Her quiet beauty and simplicity offered Henry the peace he longed for. In 1536, Jane became Henry's 3rd queen, bringing hope of stability and a male heir. Her pious nature and devotion made her beloved among the people. Jane's presence was a balm to Henry's troubled soul. In 1537 she gave birth to Edward VI, but tragically died shortly after. Her death left Henry in profound grief, a void never filled. Chapter 5. Anne of Cleves, the Unwanted Queen. With the death of Jane Seymour, Henry VIII was once again plunged into the turbulent waters of matrimony. Henry found himself once again adrift on the stormy seas of matrimony, seeking a new queen to secure his legacy. The grief that had consumed him in the immediate aftermath of Jane's passing was profound and all-encompassing. Yet gradually, this sorrow gave way to the familiar pangs of political necessity, a force that Henry could not ignore. England, newly separated from the Catholic Church, was surrounded by enemies on all sides, both foreign and domestic. The ever-present threat of a Catholic alliance loomed large, casting a shadow over Henry's reign. Henry, ever the pragmatist, sought an alliance with the Protestant princes of Germany, hoping to fortify his position.
The solution presented itself in the form of Anne of Cleves, a woman of noble birth and Protestant faith. She was the sister of the powerful Duke of Cleves. A political marriage, yes, but one that held the promise of bolstering England's standing on the European stage. This union was seen as a strategic move, one that could secure England's Protestant future and strengthen its alliances. The Protestant Reformation was in full swing, and Henry needed allies who shared his vision for a reformed church.
However, unlike the intricate dance of courtly love that had characterized his earlier courtships, this time, Henry would rely on the eyes of others. Trusting his advisors to find him a suitable match. Hans Holbein the Younger, a renowned artist celebrated for his meticulous portraits, was dispatched to Cleves to capture Anne's likeness. Holbein's portrait, now considered one of his finest works, depicted Anne as a regal figure, resplendent in the finery of the German court. Her features, though not conventionally beautiful, hinted at a quiet dignity and grace, qualities that Henry found appealing. Her features, though not conventionally beautiful, hinted at a quiet dignity and grace, a serene presence that was captured in the portrait. Henry, it seemed, was pleased with what he saw in the portrait, believing he had found a suitable queen. However, upon Anne's arrival in England, the reality fell far short of the artistic ideal that Holbein had painted. Henry was immediately struck by the difference between the portrait and the woman before him.
Whether it was a failing of Holbein's brush or a deliberate attempt to flatter the prospective bride, Henry was immediately disappointed, feeling that he had been misled by the flattering portrait.
"She is nothing so fair as she hath been reported," he is said to have exclaimed, his displeasure echoing through the halls of Whitehall Palace. "She is nothing so fair as she hath been reported." Anne, it seemed, was not the Flanders mare of popular legend, but she was also far from the vision that had captivated him. Through Holbein's brush. The marriage, a mere 6 months later, was annulled, marking one of the shortest unions in Henry's tumultuous marital history. Anne, much to Henry's relief, accepted the situation with remarkable grace and pragmatism, understanding the political necessity of the annulment. She was granted a generous settlement, including several palaces, and the title of the king's beloved sister, ensuring her comfort and status in England.
Catherine Howard, a name that echoes through the annals of Tudor history, a name synonymous with both beauty and tragedy, a mere girl when thrust upon the throne, a pawn in the game of courtly ambition. She was barely out of her teens, yet she was expected to navigate the treacherous waters of the Tudor court. She was, by all accounts, a captivating creature, full of youthful vivacity and charm. Her beauty was the talk of the court, her every move watched and whispered about. Henry, alas, though no longer the young stallion he once fancied himself, was completely smitten. He saw in her a chance to recapture his own lost youth, a fleeting dream of vitality. He called her his rose without a thorn, blind to the thorns that lay hidden beneath the surface. The court, however, was not so easily deceived.
Her family, the Howards, saw in her an opportunity to further their own ambitions. They were a family that thrived on power and influence, always looking for ways to climb higher. They had risen high on the back of Anne Boleyn, Catherine's own cousin, and now, with Catherine as queen, they saw their chance to eclipse even the mighty Norfolk clan. Catherine, young and naive, was ill-equipped to navigate the treacherous waters of the court. She was surrounded by intrigue and deception, a lamb among wolves. She was but a plaything for those more powerful, her fate sealed from the moment she caught the king's eye. Her beauty, once her greatest asset, became her greatest curse.
The bloom of the rose, as it were, soon faded. The court's whispers turned to rumours, and the once admired queen found herself isolated and vulnerable. Catherine, whether out of boredom or a genuine search for affection, became entangled in a web of her own making. Her actions, innocent or not, were scrutinised and judged harshly. There was Francis Derham, a man from her past, linked to her in whispers of premarital impropriety. Their past relationship became a weapon used against her. And then there was Thomas Culpeper, a gentleman of the King's Privy Chamber, with whom Catherine embarked on a dangerous liaison. Their secret meetings were fraught with peril.
Word of the Queen's indiscretions eventually reached the King's ears. The court was abuzz with scandal and the whispers grew louder. Henry, initially disbelieving, flew into a rage when presented with the evidence. His trust shattered, his pride wounded, he could not forgive such a betrayal. His rose without a thorn had betrayed him, had made a mockery of his love and his very manhood. The betrayal cut deep, and the consequences were swift. Catherine, accused of treason and adultery, was stripped of her title and imprisoned in the Tower of London. The once vibrant queen now faced a grim reality. Her pleas for mercy fell on deaf ears. The court, once enamored with her beauty, now turned its back on her. Her fate, like that of her cousin Anne before her, was sealed. The scaffold awaited, and with it the end of a rose cut short.
Catherine Parr, twice widowed and possessing a sharp intellect, was a very different woman from the young and inexperienced Catherine Howard. Hers was a marriage born not of passion, but of pragmatism. Henry by this time was a shadow of his former self, a corpulent and ailing king in desperate need of a capable and caring wife.
Catherine proved to be the perfect consort for the aging king. She was a skilled nurse, tending to his many ailments and a calming influence on his volatile temper. More than that, she was a woman of considerable learning and piety, a staunch supporter of the burgeoning Protestant Reformation. She brought a sense of stability and intellectual vigor to the court, even as the king's health continued to decline.
Catherine's influence extended beyond the king's bedchamber. She took a keen interest in the education of the young Edward, Henry's long-awaited male heir. She also played a crucial role in reconciling Henry with his daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, bringing them back into the fold of the royal family. In many ways, Catherine Parr was the mother figure that Henry's children, both legitimate and illegitimate, had so desperately needed.
Upon Henry's death, Catherine was free to marry again, this time choosing for love. She wed Thomas Seymour, brother to the late Queen Jane, but her happiness was tragically short-lived. Catherine died in childbirth the following year, leaving behind a legacy of intellectual curiosity, religious conviction, and a remarkable ability to navigate the treacherous waters of the Tudor court. And so, the tumultuous reign of Henry VIII, a king consumed by his desire for a male heir, played out against the backdrop of these 6 extraordinary women. Catherine of Aragon, the steadfast queen denied her rightful place. Anne Boleyn, the ambitious mother who paved the way for her daughter's future reign. Jane Seymour, who gave Henry the son he craved, but at the ultimate price. Anne of Cleves, the fortunate survivor of a king's fleeting fancy. Catherine Howard, the naive pawn sacrificed on the altar of courtly intrigue. And Catherine Parr, the intelligent and compassionate survivor who brought stability to a turbulent court. These 6 women, forever bound to Henry VIII, were each in their own way architects of their own destinies. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, please hit like and subscribe. A comment would be highly appreciated. It helps to figure out what kind of content you like and want to see in the future.